What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the TheSlamDuncan YouTube channel. It is officially the NBA offseason as finally we have a major trade to be talking about. Yesterday, on Sunday, we heard about the Dennis Schroeder trade to the Los Angeles Lakers, but we were all waiting for the major trade to happen, and starting today at noon Eastern or 11 a.m. Central Time, trades can become official in the NBA, and we have officially gotten our big blockbuster move that we've all been waiting for. As you can see up on the screen, and I'm sure you have all known by now that Chris Paul has officially been traded to the Phoenix Suns, as well as Abdel Nader, and the Oklahoma City Thunder get Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, Jerome, Jalen Lecque, and the 2022 first round pick from the Phoenix Suns, which has a lot of protections on it, and I'll get into that later. But I really want to break down what this means for both teams. Is I personally think this is a win-win trade. And I really don't see any drawbacks unless, obviously, injuries happen. But before we get into the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you're new here. And also, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Duncan_White14. But Chris Paul is officially on the Phoenix Suns. And the Phoenix Suns that went on that amazing 8-0 run in the bubble are officially now going to be talked about as a playoff contender. Now, do I think that they're going to be a title contender? Absolutely not. I think they're missing a few pieces, and I also think DeAndre Ayton needs to grow a little bit more before I start talking about the Phoenix Suns as being a contending team. But what this does for the Phoenix Suns, getting Chris Paul, like, if you really think about it, since they had Dragic, Bledsoe, and Isaiah Thomas all on the same team at that one point, the Phoenix Suns really have not had a point guard. And Devin Booker, as great as he is, and I think he needs to handle the ball a lot and, have the ball in his hands and, initiate a lot of the offense, but he needs a point guard that maybe isn't at all-star level, but has the ability to set up his other teammates very effectively and set him up as well, because Devin Booker is a very good off-ball player, and people don't actually realize that. And Chris Paul, I think, is perfect for him because Chris Paul is a great leader that can come in and fill that leadership role and be a great point guard that Devin Booker needs. And I think the biggest person who's going to get the most benefit out of this is DeAndre Ayton, because Chris Paul in that pick and roll with DeAndre Ayton is going to be nice. I mean, you saw what Chris Paul can do with a Steven Adams as his pick guy. Now you have a DeAndre Ayton setting that pick and going towards the rim or shooting that 18-footer. And I think that is going to be a deadly combination for this Phoenix Suns team. But overall, when looking at this trade, the Phoenix Suns do have to give up Kelly Oubre, which is what was expected. Ricky Rubio is also, that was basically a given that he was gone. Do I think the Phoenix Suns gave up too much? I really don't. I think the Phoenix Suns did a good job with this deal because you kept your young core pieces together. You still have Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, and you still kept that number 10 overall pick in this draft, which is in 2 days. So I think the Phoenix Suns did a fantastic job with this. And I also think Sam Presti, he gets a lot of hate for, never actually winning a championship when Durant was on the team and Westbrook was still there, along with James Harden, not re-signing James Harden. But I think, if anything, Sam Presti has learned as he has gone through his years. Because, my goodness, man, if you look at what Sam Presti has done since basically Kevin Durant was gone and went to Golden State, Sam Presti has actually done one heck of a job for OKC here. And in this specific trade, this is a great haul back for the Oklahoma City Thunder for Chris Paul. And I give Sam Presti a ton of credit here because if you really think about it, you trade Russell Westbrook because Paul George has said that he wants out, right? So you get rid of Paul George and you got a ton of first-round picks for Paul George back. And you also got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which, I'm a big fan of Shai. A lot of people aren't, but I think Shai's going to be a really good player in this league. And you trade Russell Westbrook to the Houston Rockets, and you get 2 first-round picks from the Houston Rockets and 2 swaps. So that's really 4 first-round picks, basically. And then now you have Chris Paul, who at the time is like, okay, you have to attach picks to Chris Paul because of his contract, and Chris Paul, he's all washed, and he's actually not an all-star anymore. He's not that good of a player. But what Sam Presti did is that he knew that Chris Paul was still valuable, but people just didn't see it. So he let Chris Paul play out this season in OKC, and it skyrocketed his value. And now, because his value is so high, you get this type of deal in return. So if you look at what Sam Presti got for the Russell Westbrook trade, he got 2 first-round picks, he got 2 pick swaps from the Houston Rockets. Now, you get the 2022 first-round pick from the Suns, Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, who you're probably going to trade, and a little bit more after. So this deal for Russell Westbrook is actually not done yet. Sam Presti can still get a lot back if he decides to trade Kelly Oubre, and I'm pretty sure he's going to decide to trade Ricky Rubio at some point. Who knows? But I think Sam Presti has done one heck of a job with so far. You know, it's only been a day in really of the NBA offseason, but in the 2 trades that he has already done, I think he's actually done a pretty good job with it. As the 2022 first round pick has been talked about, you know, the Suns did have some good protections on it. I was actually not expecting these protections to be this good. But in 2022, if it's 1 through 12, it goes back to Phoenix, and if it doesn't convey, and then it'll go to 2023, which if that doesn't convey, you know, it'll just keep going until 2025. But basically, though, either way, if you're the Thunder, I think the Thunder at least get this by 2023. I don't expect the Phoenix Suns team to be a lottery team, even actually this upcoming season, but I expect the pick to be conveyed in 2022. If not that, then 2023. But what I think is actually really important to note here is that this 2022 NBA draft class, you know, you're not going to have a 1 through 12 pick if you're OKC, but what so far the consensus is that the 2022 draft class is actually looking really, really good. So either way, if you look at already the amount of picks that Sam Presti has for 2022, add in another one, it's even better. So I think, again, if you're the Phoenix Suns, like let's say this just all of a sudden doesn't work out and you're a lottery team again, you're probably going to keep that pick for this year, which is good. But, and then either way, if you're the Thunder, I think you're probably going to be fine as well. Because if somehow Chris Paul, you know, 2 years down the line, for the Suns is like still pretty good, or if he falls off, and then I think Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton themselves is probably going to be fine. If this pick conveys in 2022, I think you're good. If it conveys in 2023, you know, I think that's fine as well. So I think both sides won this part of the deal when it comes to the pick. But here's the thing I really want to get into, and that's now that Chris Paul is officially on the Suns, I want to get into what something that my friend David, go check him out on Twitter, David of Burnhour. We talked about this, and you know, Chris Paul, when it was rumored he could go to Phoenix, you know, we started looking at numbers and everything, and a player that keeps coming up for at least us, and now it's starting to be talked about in the NBA, is that Danilo Gallinari is a good idea for the Phoenix Suns. And the thing is, if you look at what Bobby Marks tweeted out today, if the Phoenix Suns don't do this trade right now, then they still have cap space at the moment that they can work with if they cut all these players. So they have right now about $18 million in cap space that they can use, which is just enough to get a guy like Danilo Gallinari to come to their team. And it's going to have to be a straight up just sign, though. After you get Danilo Gallinari, though, then you can do the CP3 trade, and the numbers already work out pretty well, and you're set. But this is if the Phoenix Suns like want to contend now, and you know, you can debate back and forth on it, but I don't really think the Phoenix Suns at this moment are thinking about being like, we're going to win a championship this upcoming season. I think this is a move to bring the Phoenix Suns from a rebuilding stage, so now you're going to be at least 100% a playoff team, and then who knows where your ceiling is at that point. Like, for me right now, I think the Phoenix Suns are probably going to be a 4 or 5 seed at the very highest if they play their best. After that, though, then I think the following year, you know, you can definitely be a contender, but you have to make sure you do the right moves because you don't want to use up your cap space too quickly. Once you become a contender, you still want to have some flexibility to get the right guy to pair alongside your all-stars. But this is just an idea that it's been thrown out there, and to be honest, it's not a bad idea because if you think about it, Phoenix Suns really have not had a really decent power forward either in the past couple of seasons. You add in a guy like Danilo Gallinari, who played with CP3 last year in OKC, and he averages about 18 points per game. alongside Devin Booker, who already is a star, and that next to DeAndre Ayton, I think that's a perfect combination. It's just an idea that's been thrown out there. I think it would fit perfectly for the Phoenix Suns if they really want to contend this upcoming season. But that's the Phoenix Suns and how basically their future, they just look really, really good for the future. But on the other side for OKC, which is now I already talked about with the Russell Westbrook trade, but Sam Presti has yet again gotten more assets that he can either flip to get more assets, or he can just keep them for himself. But before we decide on how good of GM Sam Presti is, we have to give him credit for what he has done already with the amount of assets he's gained. And when all of a sudden, when Paul George is like, I'm out, and that means you got to trade Russell Westbrook, which it seems like the worst day in OKC. Now, if you look at what Sam Presti has done, he has accumulated a total of about 17 picks through the next 6 drafts, in first round picks. And that is an insane amount of picks if you really start to think about the types of moves that he can do. And it's a bunch of the Clippers picks, he has a bunch of the Rockets picks, he has a Miami Heat pick, an Atlanta Hawks pick. They're everywhere, and of course he has his own. So you got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you got Darius Bazley, who are really your main 2 guys. I expect Steven Adams to probably be traded in the next upcoming days. Who knows? You got 2 picks in this upcoming draft on Wednesday, the 25th and 28th, I believe. And who knows what Sam Presti can do with those 2 picks. He could probably package those and potentially move up in the draft. But either way, Sam Presti has done an amazing job getting the assets. But obviously, the job isn't done there. He needs to use the assets properly and correctly to make sure this OKC team isn't in a rebuilding stage for, multiple years, which I don't expect them to be. Because we all thought OKC was going to be the worst, one of the worst teams in the West this past season. And, they were the 5th seed. So I think if you're Sam Presti, you're probably thinking, this is probably a tank year. You're going to go be one of the worst teams probably, but you're still going to have, some really good games from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Darius Bazley, some of your young guys. You're probably going to keep Rubio, but at least you'll have some veterans with Kelly Oubre, Rubio on the team, and you'll probably get some wins, but you're probably not going to be the greatest team, obviously. But after, the picks come in and you make all the selections and you make all the moves, you have so much assets, there's so many assets, and you also have about $80 million in cap space next off season. So OKC is in a fantastic set right now to potentially land some major free agents if they decide to go to OKC next off season, which we don't know. We'll see what happens. But either way, I think in the end, but this trade makes sense for both teams, and I'm really excited to see Chris Paul play next to Devin Booker and do that pick and roll with DeAndre Ayton. And I think Sam Presti has yet again done a fantastic job getting as much as he can for when he trades guys away. And the Dennis Schroeder trade just happened as well, which can't be official till draft night, but he got Danny Green back in that trade as well, which I expect Danny Green to be gone before the season starts. So if you think about it, the Melo trade, which really wasn't going anywhere, you got Dennis Schroeder somehow out of that Melo trade, right? Now you trade away Dennis Schroeder, which you didn't get a lot back, but you now, if you really think about it, you got that pick from the Lakers. You're probably going to trade Danny Green as well. So for Carmelo Anthony, you got a first-round pick, which people wouldn't think you would get a first-round pick, and probably a little bit more once you trade Danny Green. So Sam Presti, again, has done a fantastic job when he has to get rid of guys. He gets so much value in return, and it could be through multiple trades, but that's how you do it in this league. You get assets and you flip them. But overall, I like this deal for both teams. It's such a good deal for both teams. And I'm excited to see the Phoenix Suns back in the playoffs. It's about time since the Suns have made the playoffs. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope to be uploading more of these videos, especially as I think this offseason is going to be kind of crazy when it comes to trades. Maybe not signings, but I think trades are going to happen left and right. And I'll definitely be making videos about some of the major trades. But make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next video.